thank you so much today to Celeste Goodson, who has really kindly joined Grania and myself to talk about the amazing work she does with elite athletes. And I think it's early morning for you right now. Is that right, Celeste?
Yep, we just sent my last on the bus about 10 minutes ago, so we're good. My husband's home, so he was helping me out. It's picture day for my third child this morning, so got her hair done, got her off on the bus.
Oh, well, thank you for spending this time with us. And both Grania and I have followed you for a long time because of the amazing work that you do with postnatal athletes. But there will be some people who are part of the group who aren't as familiar with your work. So I just wondered if you could give us a bit of an idea of who you are and what you do.
Sure. I run a business called Rico Fitness. I do pre and postnatal training. I primarily just focus on core conditioning postpartum. That keeps me pretty busy. So I do a 6-week program with women. There's a download program, or I'll do one-on-one online training or in-home training with women, and try to just help progress them wherever they're at to getting them back to exercise.
Do all those women want to run, or is it any form of exercise that they can do?
Any form of exercise. I have sort of specialized working with elite runners. So I have done a lot of that, and I'm a runner myself. So that's something I'm most interested in, but I'll work with anyone. And I do have a pre and postnatal support. It's called the Fit Splint. It's a maternity support and a postnatal support. I originally made it because I wanted something flexible and more supportive during running. And so we sell to PT clinics, and we sell online and in some stores as well.
Amazing. And anyone in the world can access your online programs, I presume?
Yes. Yeah. Anyone around the world can do the download program. I do stay pretty busy with online training, so sometimes it's hard to work one-on-one with people, but I try to do as many as I can. So yeah.
Amazing. So as you know, because you're part of our Facebook group, our real interest is returning women to running post-baby. And we know that you work with, or have worked with, quite a few elite athletes. One that springs to mind, because I also follow her, and I think she might even follow me, is Alysia. And it's been quite well known about your rehab program that you've used with her. Did she rehabilitate from her early days postnatally with you to get her back to the running she's doing now?
Yes, I worked with her, not with her first pregnancy, but with her second, pretty early on postpartum. And typically I have, with some of these athletes, I've gone out and visited them in person, and gotten clearance from their doctor and had them see a PT also, and then just worked with them wherever they were at, and just helped get them back to running. Yeah.
Pelvic health physiotherapist or a sports physiotherapist?
I'll always recommend seeing the PT. Sometimes I communicate with them, sometimes I don't. It just depends on the athlete, and but I'm always recommending. Sometimes they have their own PT already, and I'm encouraging them to go see a public PT also, because maybe they haven't done that yet. But yeah, that's always the top of my recommendation, is to go see one and make sure things are okay from that standpoint. And they are always made aware of what I'm doing. So if there's any reason to wait on my part, then we'll wait a couple weeks. And then if they're, fine where they're at, then we'll just keep continuing on also. And I also make sure I do an assessment with them, obviously just a readiness questionnaire, and from a training aspect, just making sure they're symptoms are what they are. But if there's any red flags, I will, stop at that point also and say, you need to go see a PT. I'll work with you after you're done. So we do that also.
That's quite in keeping with what Emma and I and Tom had put together in the guidelines, that idea of doing a screen and highlighting if there is any dysfunction. So with the likes of load and impact testing, but I think we've been communicating before, and it's you're putting them through certain drills to see, is it bringing on any symptoms?
Sorry, I didn't hear. Did you ask me a question?
No, I was just saying that's quite in keeping with what we recommended in the guidelines, with kind of doing a questionnaire or maybe even testing people through certain loading drills or exercises.
Yeah, and that's what I really like what you guys have done, because I'm working on my own. I think it's really important that there needs to be a better an overall assessment that most people could go by, really. I have been doing this for a while, but at the same time, it's good to, see what others are doing and see what you guys recommend, and, make sure that we're covering our bases and that the women are getting taken care of like they should. So yeah, I love that you guys have taken the time to put something together and that it's spread so well. And, from my perspective, I've seen a lot of the PTs looking at it, reading it. We could get the OBGYNs to, just recommend no matter what. They don't even have to have problems, just to go see you guys and to get the proper core reconditioning postpartum just off the bat, no matter what. That's been my goal from day one. And when I started ReCore, it came from a place of, I did have some issues after my third child, and the doctor had recommended, I had some mild prolapse and stress incontinence. I had ab separation, DR, after my third. And at the time, I felt like I knew what I was supposed to be doing. I was doing transverse ab exercises. I was doing pelvic floor exercises, but I didn't really know how to connect the dots between A, B exercises and X, Y, Z. And I felt like, even at that time, 10 years ago, PT was just A, B exercises, and the gym was X, Y, Z, just boot camp. And just really gradually getting a good progression for women. And that's kind of what I ended up doing for myself. And then just thinking, it would just be how much of a difference would this make for women if they are just off the bat doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, just gradually getting this progression going. And that was kind of my goal from day one, is just to get women to do this no matter what. DR, whether they have issues or not. Because even if they do have issues, sometimes it's just, they need to pause and go work with PT a little bit, but they're still going to follow a progression no matter what. So
I think you've shown that. Sorry, Emma. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think your demonstration, especially with working with these elite athletes, has demonstrated that women can get back to the activity they want to get back to, which is so empowering and is such a good message to get out there, so that women don't feel that having a baby means they're giving up a part of their life.
Yeah.
What, from your perspective, in terms of the elite athletes, how much consideration, if it wasn't for you considering the women and their health and their pelvic health and their core, how much consideration is given in elite sport as it stands, or is that an area that needs to progress?
It is an area that needs to progress. I do think there's been definitely a little bit of improvement in the last few years. Trainers that have already been working with elite athletes, maybe starting to think about, maybe I don't know enough. Maybe I don't know what to do with them the first couple months postpartum. So it has been interesting because, from my perspective, I might start working with an elite athlete that has their own trainer, that was maybe even working with them during pregnancy if I didn't start working with them right away. And to be able to come in and work with them for a few months and then they go back to their trainer, is a different perspective, but they've been open to it. And if that's what the elite athlete wants to do, then like, hey, this is great. You go work with them, and then we'll get you, we'll get you started. So that is definitely, I think they're starting to realize, because women are definitely talking a lot about it more. I've worked with Stephanie Bruce, and she's done a lot of good bringing that awareness out. And Allyson Felix lately, she has also, and they've both been open to talking about, that they're elite athletes and they didn't know what to do. And they knew they weren't getting the help they needed. And they, were like, oh, this is what I needed. So they've been very thankful and open to talk about it. So they've done tremendous. These elite athletes have, Gwen Jorgensen talked about it. All the ones that I've worked with have all been willing to talk about it and share. And just that alone has helped, at least in the running world, has helped spread the awareness a lot. So
I think that's half of it, though, isn't it? It's normalizing some of these issues, or not normalizing them, but highlighting them, and not accepting them as the norm, and wanting to do something about it.
Yeah, because I think, the average, all of us, we aren't elite athletes, for us to see them have issues and or just be aware of, what, I'm just going to spend some time reconditioning my core first before I run, even if they're not talking about specific issues they have, or maybe they don't have any issues. They're taking the time and they're gradually getting back into it. And it's been a really good example for a lot of women that follow them to go, oh, if they're going to take their time, they're not going to jump right into it, then maybe I should also.
That's a huge point, I think, because part of the issue we experience as pelvic health physiotherapists is that the social media pressures for women to snap back, and that's why they're jumping into exercise that's too intense, too soon. And so, as you say, if the example can be set by these role models that women look up to, even if they're not as sporty or in elite sport themselves, we still look up to them and still inspired by them. So if they can show us by example good ways to rehabilitate, good things to consider, and that yes, they're not immune to some of these issues, I think that's a huge message for our future generations.
Yeah. And I think, working with elite athletes, there's a few things about them that have made them be good examples, is because they're very in tune with their bodies and they're very motivated. So if they do work with a PT or a trainer, they're going to trust and do what their trainer says. Sometimes working with women, they might not necessarily be sold into what they're doing. Is this helping? Is this really important for me? Or this seems really easy, or this isn't a hard sweat, hard exercise. This is different. Am I really doing anything? But the elite athletes understand. They're used to doing all the little things every day. And they understand that, some of these more basic exercises and a gradual progression is the important thing to do. So that has also been really helpful, because they know that doing the little things matters.
Definitely. Well, I think within our running group on Facebook, we have quite a lot of fitness professionals who perhaps aren't so familiar with or becoming more interested in the postnatal population. And how did you get more into this side of what we call PTing or personal training? How did you become more interested in it? Was it following you having children, or some?
It was a combination of, I previously worked in PT. I have an advanced personal training certification, so I'm a medical exercise specialist. Sometimes people call it it used to be called a clinical exercise specialist. So I used to work alongside PT, so I got to see the progression, and then I always felt like in some ways it was really hard for people to follow through or to continue that progression after PT. because they can only do so much sometimes. Maybe insurance only allows so many visits. Maybe they, just only kind of get ABC in, and they don't really keep progressing from there. But I think PT has definitely improved a lot since then. PT is doing a lot more progression type things with their client or patients. And so with that certification, and then with my experience working with women, and then being, a mom myself, I just felt like there was a little bit of a missing link between, PT and returning to baby, or they didn't have access to PT, or they weren't doing anything. And so it was just encouraging them to do this no matter what. If there's red flags, go to your PT, and I realized that as healthcare develops and as we do a better job taking care of women, actually, hopefully, I hope that, that it's standard practice for PTs just to start working with them. It may not be me, which is fine, but getting the PTs first with the women. And I think part of the hard thing is women want to do something postpartum, and maybe they can't get into that PT till 6 weeks postpartum, at least in the US. So just getting, I do get clearance from doctors and explaining what I'm doing, and I'll just get them started on some very basic exercises, obviously just transverse pelvic floor type activation exercises, maybe progressing them just a little bit until they can go to their PT, because they know they want to be doing something. And from my perspective, I feel like they should be doing something if they feel motivated. If they just want to take it easy for weeks, I think that's fine. But I also feel like we're almost doing these women a disservice by not giving them any sort of exercise after their muscles have been stretched out for 6 weeks and they walk. And it may be different for you guys in your country, but there might be a few doctors here that might give them a sheet of a few exercises to do, but most are not getting anything, any sort of guidance, any sort of recommendations. And so they're afraid to move, except for carrying their baby around. And, really the exercises we're doing with them are easier than what they're doing at home, but it's just helping wake everything up. And I know you guys know that and agree with that.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think that's where women do struggle, because some women at 2 weeks post-delivery are really keen to do something and they just don't know what to do. And just as in the US, tends to be that you'll see us, the pelvic health physio or your GP at 6 weeks. So for a lot of women, they almost feel they can't do anything for 6 weeks. And for someone who loves exercise, that's a long time, and it's unnecessary. There is plenty that can be done in that period. I mean, I know Grania, who's now, I'm going to get this wrong, 9 weeks postnatal now, 10 weeks.
9 on Friday, yeah.
You're going through it all right now, huh? For the fourth time.
I just actually apologize, because if you hear anything, I've got my baby is feeding. There may be slurps. So, apologies. But actually, what I want to say for anyone in this group, there is so much that can be done, and we've been
in that window
trying to showcase that. So we'll release the video into the group of kind of like a time lapse of what I've been doing. Towards the end of this week, after being mum, Emma, I think would be a good idea to release it. But it's just to show that, particularly because you can't just go from doing nothing to then suddenly at a certain time frame loading on high impact. So you have to progress, grade up and build up. And as you say, I am testament to the fact that as a mom of 4 with a couple of young kids, so my eldest is 5, I'm constantly lifting a 2-year-old, sometimes lifting the now 4-year-old. What we do at home is crazy, and we need to be even just retraining to be fit for that.
Yeah. And I do feel like it is almost a disservice for these women to wait 6 months or 6 weeks to do anything, because they are, like you said, they are lifting and they are doing things, and that those muscles have really not been activated very well. So it is very difficult for some of them if they don't know some of that already. And obviously better prenatal care comes into that, get an understanding of what they could do postpartum. But a lot of it's like it's hard to get people to do something until there's a problem or until they notice that there's a weakness there. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times being proactive is harder for everyone to follow. So
then from the mental health side of things, and I think this would really come into athletes who are used to intense training, and that's their a huge part of their life. To be told not to do something for 6 weeks could have a huge influence on how they're feeling, because to them that's lost time, and it's also
mentally
their body's not back to what they're expecting it to be. They don't feel like they're getting stronger. So if you can give them a program like you're obviously doing, where they are gradually starting to wake those muscles up, start to progress that load, even they're getting their motivation back to, they will get back to where they want to be, and that's putting that mindset in early rather than letting, I suppose, that become an issue as well.
Yeah, and I do think it is making a big difference on how well they recover is what they've been able to do those 6 weeks. Obviously, it's never too late. You don't want women to feel bad because they're starting this at 3 months postpartum, or they're starting this at 1 or 2 years postpartum. It's never too late, but I do think it definitely helps set them up and prepare them for, obviously if they want to get back in the running, it's going to make a huge, huge difference for them.
Well, considering your experience, say, working with the likes of Alysia and I suppose big role models like that, did she notice a difference in her recovery approach between her first and second pregnancies?
Yeah, definitely. I am actually working with her now. She's announced she's pregnant. I'm working with her now, and we'll be doing a FaceTime video with her about what she's doing during pregnancy. So it is fun to be able to work with them, postpartum, and then get them in pregnancy the next time around if I didn't get them the first time. But just being aware of what you can focus on and what you can do and still stay active, and that's really, really fun to see.
I wanted to ask you, Celeste, if you've any message that you particularly want to get across, or if you've any questions for us about how things are over here, or anything at all.
Yeah, sure. I probably have both. I think my biggest message is getting women to not only activate the core, but to really gain core control back. So that's probably my biggest thing. A lot of times I'll end up working with women who have already done some PT or worked with on a program postpartum. But when I start working with them, they really haven't been able to get good core control yet. So getting them a little farther in that stage, getting that progression. I think I've mentioned, or you see it online, the drop test is one way I like to assess their core control. But it's only one, but it's a good visual for them to see maybe how far they've come in core control, and just being able to generate that stiffness. It's not something that they generate all the time, but being able to when they need to, I think is really key for women in reconditioning their core. So that's probably the biggest thing I like to focus on. Obviously, when I say core, I mean pelvic floor also. But and then sometimes people think, it's funny, you get different perspectives. Sometimes I think PTs think I do too much, and then I think people in the online and the training world think I do too little. So it's just understanding it. It's really just a progression from where they're at and getting them to do full body impact exercises, that kind of thing. But yeah, that's probably my biggest thing, is just do a little more progression with them to really get the core control and get that back.
Can you describe the drop test just for anyone who's not familiar with what any of our listeners, would you describe what the drop test that you were talking about is?
Sure. I don't test it right away on everybody. Sometimes they're a little too early postpartum, but I do try to test them within a few weeks. if once they understand how to engage their core, how to control the core, and then we can test how well they can drop those legs. You know, for instance, if I can show you, I guess, you know, a really condensed version. You know, we're just assessing how much control, how low they can lower those legs. As we know, and as you guys know, doing anything from this position up is very, very difficult. So starting at the top and engaging that core and keeping neutral spine. So, you know, a lot of people can cheat and bulge that belly and lower their legs farther. But we really want to see how well they can do that with core control. So they're engaging that core and maintaining control. And a lot of women postpartum are just getting right to about there. And that's all they can do before their belly wants to bulge or before their back wants to arch. And then at the end of 6 weeks, we're retesting that, seeing if they feel like they can go farther down. And then realizing that, you know, once they get more strength in there and more control, that they can lower those legs farther down. I'm trying to think if I'm missing something, but they like that visual too, because they kind of see their progress over the 6 weeks. And obviously it's just a one component test, but I do like that one in particular because it just is a very good visual for them. And I know it's a little different than the straight leg raise test, but yeah, it seems to work well.
Yeah, especially with the elite athletes that you have and what I suppose the level of challenge that they're looking to get back to. It's a more maybe difficult or more high-loading test, which is more appropriate to that population as well.
Right. And you know, I do end up using it with everybody. They won't necessarily get as far, but they get a really good sense of, you know, how much core control they have. And obviously other muscles come into play. It's not just the inner core that we can test with that test. But it does seem to work well for everyone. They just, you know, they're not going as far down, but they can sense when that belly wants to bulge, and that's enough. That's enough. And, you know, prolapse women, everybody, DR, you know, we're not pushing it. We're just doing, you know, a gradual.
Yeah, and even maybe checking in on symptoms of like prolapse, like if they start to feel bulging, that's kind of their indication of that they're not ready to progress that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. And as far as, you know, questions for you guys, I guess I'm curious how, you know, the response has gone for you guys from other physical therapists around the world. I mean, from my perspective, it seems like everyone's kind of like eating it up. This is really good. So how has it gone for you guys to put this out there?
We were just talking about this earlier, actually. It's been much bigger than we thought it would be, which I think reflects how many people love running, and how many people feel that they're not being guided back to running, perhaps in the right way, or certainly with the right information. I also think medical and healthcare professionals and fitness professionals what we didn't want to create was a recipe, but I think what it's created are some just giving people some guidance and some tests that are evidence-based, that absolutely, I think, still further research and evidence is needed regarding the whole subject. But I think it's just got the ball rolling and showing what an appetite there is for the postnatal population to exercise better, and women aren't prepared to accept that, you know, that they leak when they jump on a trampoline, or they leak when they run a 5K, or feel heaviness in their vagina. And why was that ever okay? You know, women want more, and rightly so. So I think the guidelines have struck a chord with us, the fitness and healthcare professionals, but women as well, and that's been it's just been an amazing response, really.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been really exciting. Exciting.
Even the physios in sport coming behind us and endorsing has been huge. And it's just, I think that the fact that they're still going and people are wanting to hear more about them, as I say, it's a hot topic. It's something that really needed something out there. And even if it's simply just to raise awareness and get conversations going and to inspire more future research, it's been well worth all the hard work that we put into putting it together, because it was a huge task and a huge endeavor that at one stage I think we thought would never be finished.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's great what you guys have been doing and helping bring everyone together and get the discussion rolling, and also just help put something together that, you know, everyone's kind of, some are doing on their own and some aren't doing anything at all because they just don't know what to do. And so I think it's great.
You know, one of the biggest things that I found, it made it, my husband's a physical therapist too, but he's a sports and MSK physio, and I work in my hospital post. I work alongside a lot of musculoskeletal physiotherapists, and they felt that the guidelines give them the tools or the know-how or the opportunity to start speaking about pelvic health issues, which they thought wasn't their area beforehand. It was merely like they sectioned off and pelvic health physiotherapists deal with that. We don't need to deal with that. Whereas suddenly this guideline that had a bit of both information about getting back to running from a musculoskeletal point of view, but also the pelvic health, suddenly they're realizing that this is within their remit to bring up these conversations, to highlight these issues, to talk about them, to rehab them, and to, when they find that they reach their limit, to pass them on to someone else.
Yes.
Great. Yeah. No, I think the whole I mean, you must have seen it having been in this industry, because you've been doing it for a good
over about 10 years.
Yeah. And similar. And it's amazing how much it's changed, I would say, particularly in the past 2 or 3 years. How the interest has grown, and now we just need to keep the momentum.
Yes.
Because although we've got the guidelines in place, they're still not getting to perhaps the people that need to get to hear about them, and that for me is the GPs, the general practitioners. That's where I think change is still needed. But I think it's by, you know, the power of social media that's helping, and I think we just need to keep chipping away, and you need to keep getting all these amazing sportswomen winning gold in the world championships that they're doing, and I think that in itself, that's what raises awareness and makes for change, really, doesn't it? So
I do feel like that's still the really big missing link, is getting the doctors to, they're the ones that see them, the midwives, the doctors, the ones that see them no matter what, to give them this type of information. And yes, you should gradually get into it. Yes, you should ReCore, recondition your core no matter what first, not, oh, well, you don't have any symptoms, you don't need to do anything, but everyone is weaker because of pregnancy and needs some sort of progression no matter what. And to just get checked.
So if anyone wants to find out more about you, and obviously you're based in the US, we're based in the UK, but that makes no odds from finding out more and learning more from you, where would they best do so?
So the website is recorefitness.com, and you can find the programs online there. I am updating a few programs, just getting a few more that people can download. Because the training is definitely keeping me busy, but I do really like staying in the training and doing the, in-home visits here. It just, it would be too easy to just do download programs and not connect with women as much, but definitely helps me to stay in it and stay, individually working with women.
Amazing. And you're on Instagram, you are at ReCore Fitness. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else, Grania, that I'm sure we'll end it and we'll think of stuff, but
no, but let us know when you have the video up with your interview, any interviews or any things you do with Alysia, because that's really, a lot of the people in our group would love to check that out, no doubt.
Okay.
And I'll be looking forward to looking at that too. And other than that, I'm delighted that nearly like what you're doing really reinforces what we're saying, and it's great when everyone's kind of singing off the one hymn sheet. And I look forward to connecting in the future. I think it's great. I think we can make the world smaller and we can all have a common voice and get the message well and truly out there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yes, it's been great to talk with you guys, and we'll definitely keep connecting and making some progress. So great.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right, thanks.
Bye.